Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 3 of the Mayday Masterclass. My name is Allison, and I have been your host here for the last 2 days. And today's our last day of the Masterclass. And so we have been going through the sort of holistic view of our health based on the idea of head, heart, and hands. Our head, our thoughts that we think, our heart, the emotions and feelings that we have, and our hands mean our like sort of physical body, the things we do in our more physical structure. And so we've covered 1 and 3, and today we'll be talking about the heart and the emotions and how those really play out in our life. How I'll also be talking about the 5, there's actually 6 senses that I will be talking about today, and how important they are, and how they each have a different sort of priority within our nervous system. And then I'll be sharing with you what I believe is the best modality for helping us with our emotions, and that is the flower essences. So let's get started. Thank you so much for joining me. I just want to remind everyone that what I'm telling you during these masterclass sessions is really informational. I'm not giving you medical advice, and that you should really do your own research before you start using any of the herbs that I've showed you the last couple of days. And that said, one of the beautiful things about flower essences is that they are an energetic type of preparation, and therefore don't interact with other types of herbs or medications. So they can be more safely used, even if you're doing other things. So, but more on that later. I'm getting ahead of myself because I love flower essences so much. And so let me be all official and say welcome to the day 3 of the Mayday Masterclass. And like I said, today is our flower essence day that I'll be talking about towards the end of today. But I wanted to bring this. I saw this quote and I thought it was really telling. It's not the bruises on the body that hurt. It's the wounds of the heart and the scars on the mind. And this is by Aisha Mirza, she's a writer. And I wanted to put in this quote with this picture because that may be true, but my belief is that regardless of the things going on around you, however gray, dark, and desolate it may look, like in this picture, you still have the ability, you still have that flower, that bloom inside of you. And that's what I'm hoping to help you with over this masterclass, is just to see that what's happening on the outside doesn't have to control the way that you're feeling on the inside. And we have all kinds of ways that can help us. So let's start out once again with messages from the flower cards. And I realized that I haven't actually shown you what the cards themselves look like. So this is our card for today. It's mugwort. And they have this lovely drawing on the back of them. And so I love to promote her. I don't have like an affiliate or anything like that, although I should probably get one. But if you like using these kinds of cards just for like a daily message, then I highly recommend. The link will be up on the next page. But I wanted you to see, like, this is what the size is, because you can't really tell from the pictures on there. So quick reminder. Oh, hello, Deb. She says, I finally made it to the live class. Awesome. That we've had, our overall message that we're kind of thinking about for this entire masterclass is our boundaries. And so we've talked about body boundaries, energy boundaries. And yesterday we talked about like thought boundaries, the thoughts that we think are not necessarily true. And we can start to put a boundary on, you know what, I don't have to think that thought anymore. Because as we'll see today, it's those thoughts that generate an emotional response. And so we can really think about where we want to put boundaries, not letting things in, and also not letting things out if that doesn't feel right to us. And then Nettle, of course, is here to wake us up and remind us that everything is always transforming and we can participate in it. We don't have to be the victim of it. We can be an active participant in our personal growth. And then yesterday we had Daffodil Perception. And the message from that card was really about how do you, not so much, well, we were talking about the perception about the things outside of us, but how do you perceive yourself? And today as we're working with flower essences, our perceptions and our feelings and our beliefs about ourselves is a really important area where flower essences can make a difference. So again, our card of the day is mugwort, which is considered somewhat of a magical plant. It is just kind of a weedy plant that grows around all over the place, but it is in the Artemisia family. And mugwort's word is integration. Again, perfect for our last day as we're going to be integrating what we've been learning all week. And the message from mugwort is that there is a rhythm and balance to all life, a dance between physical reality and the spiritual world. Mugwort opens and expands your consciousness to embrace all that you are, light and dark, body and spirit, helping you to integrate all aspects of your multidimensional consciousness into your everyday practical life. And I love how she puts the words multidimensional consciousness and everyday practical life into the same sentence, because the truth is, that is what we are doing here in this life. We are accessing all of these different sort of dimensions of our current reality. And that might sound kind of like heavy duty. Wow, Allison, that we're just talking about plants. But, that's kind of our challenge, to see all the aspects of ourselves and light and dark. She has on her website, which is down here, mysoulflower.com, she talks about going through the dark parts. There is sometimes a benefit to that. When we're in the dark, we have to feel our way through. And I thought that was so, sometimes we just need to say, what am I feeling about this? And do I like that? And how can I change it? And so on. And today we're talking about the heart, which of course means the feelings, right? So let's just jump through a quick recap from yesterday. And perception is key. How we perceive things affects what we think and how our body responds. Our senses are constantly monitoring our environment. And so again, back to day one, if we can calm our environment and make it more soothing, our senses will, our whole nervous system will be able to come off of high alert and be more calm overall. And again, the nervous system and brain interprets and decides on a response based on our past. Like, we're constantly accumulating experiences and making decisions and creating a sort of a database of decision making. And all of this, back to day one, is designed to keep us safe. Yesterday, I told the story about the scary dog that I had to walk by every day. And so it took me a long time to not be afraid of dogs. And again, if our environment is noisy, we get overwhelmed, the whole system. I talked about how our motion sensor light is constantly coming on. Oh my gosh, was something move? So by calming our environment, again, our senses and our system can relax. And also that stress can happen on things that we want, and also good things, and not just something bad. And stress motivates us. Stress keeps us going. But that, again, we should be in a relaxed state most of the time, up to 80% of the time. So before we go in, I wanted to make sure that I introduced myself properly, which I didn't do really on the first 2 days. And I am an herbalist, a flower essence practitioner, a holistic wellness coach. And I want you to know that right now, I just started an advanced level flower essence practitioner training, and I am so excited about it. I actually changed my presentation today to include some things that I just learned last night in my meeting. So I use both my intuition and my thinking research abilities. I was a research scientist for 20 plus years at the local university. I'm also a Reiki master, and I love all the different types of energetic healing modalities. And I'm also do my sort of nonprofit work. I'm a gardener. I have a seed saver and a slow food advocate. I ran a slow food chapter for many years. I have 2 boys. I'm married. I taught for a while, and I saw this. I'm a trained soil scientist and forest ecologist, but I like to describe this description here: tree hugging dirt worshiper. I saw that on a bumper sticker one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is so me. So that is me in a nutshell. And just in case you have not seen any of my programs before. So a reminder that we're going through these 3 days using this kind of framework of the head, heart, and hands. And we've done hands on day 1, head yesterday, and today we're looking at our heart and our emotions and our intuition and our kind of inner wisdom and how we feel, because how we feel basically affects our entire day. So making sure that all of these things, we're also looking at our vital life force. And in the card, it says, the spiritual world, or just the vitality, the life force, the fact that we're alive, the awe of nature. These aspects of our being are just so important for having a meaningful life, basically. So today we're going to, like I said earlier, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the senses and how they are designed to operate. And then we'll get into some of the flower essences that can really help us balance our emotional states. And it really comes down to what we believe. And what we believe and how we respond, and a lot of the sort of lack of a better word, self-deprecating beliefs that we have are really not our fault at all. They all, or most of what we believe, was learned when we were children. And whatever we had in our life, whatever our parents were telling us, whatever kind of a situation that we were in, gave a foundation for our beliefs. And so what's really important is just to remember that a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking based on experiences that you've had. And where did you get these? Like I was saying, many of them we got when we were younger, and they're mostly from our parents, but they could be from other family members or other sort of authority figures in our life. Religious beliefs, kids go to Sunday school at a very young age because that is when these types of beliefs get imprinted on us. So a lot of times these beliefs aren't even ours. And I am officially giving you permission to question your beliefs. Sometimes we have beliefs and we hold on to them because it's our family's belief and we are afraid of not being accepted by our family. So depending on your family situation, but not to get into this too much, but really to kind of look like, okay, because again, our beliefs affect our perception, and our perception creates the thoughts, and the thoughts create the emotions. We saw that on day 1, that quote by Bruce Lipton. If you haven't watched any of Bruce Lipton, has a ton of YouTube videos, and I highly recommend them. Highly recommend them. So what I want to do next is talk about a little bit more about this idea of today. We're talking about our emotions, and it's really, as I was just saying when I was, giving my little bio there, I really am been so intrigued by energetic type of healing. And the quote I'm about to show you is basically saying that this is where the future of healing is going to be. In looking at the energetic frequencies of healing, and the thing is that you might think, oh my gosh, that sounds so like flaky. But the truth is that, as we talked about on day one, our bodies run on electricity. And wherever there's electricity running, it creates a magnetic field. That is a basic physics principle. And this magnetic fields attract things. And so our whole system, they can measure, we actually can find that within about, an arm's length out from us all around, our body extends out beyond the edge of our skin. And so when we start to realize that, wow, it's okay to think about my energetic body. You walk into a room, you feel the vibe of somebody. You physically, somebody's in my space, these types of things. So it's just really important to lay the groundwork. I want to lay the groundwork on that's something that can be, if you're more of a sciencey person and that's important to you. I have a strong science background, as you just saw. And so I like both of these things. I like to see what the science is, but I also know that my feelings and my intuition are just as important. And so this quote here is talking about how there's a shift. If you look at number one, a shift of focus from matter to energy, from physical medicine to vibrational healing. So this is what we're starting to realize. Now, this is ancient wisdom. We think we're just realizing it in the modern age, but this is not something that's new. And the second thing is that we're understanding that we can heal ourselves, and flower essences, which we're talking about later today, they incorporate both of these things. They work by bringing us into a state of harmony and resonance. I guess we'll say resonance with our true essence, They help us harmonize with our true essence, our intuition, our inner feelings, our joy, and all those things. And this is by Lila Debbie from the Essential Flower Essence Handbook. And I just love how she's like, listen, we are shifting to energy medicine, and let's use the plants to help us with that. So I'm not sure that was in the right order. So let's jump in. I think it was supposed to be later in the presentation. But again, all of the things that we're sensing is through, their senses. We can't see things that we smell. We can't see things that we hear. And yet we know that they exist because we have senses that are detecting them. So what's to say there isn't all kinds of other types of waves and energy around us? The EMFs and the whole, Wi-Fi and things like that. We can't see those either. So anyway, the senses work on all different kinds of levels. So let's talk about, we know our usual 5 senses, our sense of smell and scent. Now, this sense of smell is our most primal sense, because smells are, when you smell something bad, you are highly alerted. And so what would happen is, when we were living closer to nature, this sense would alert us. We can smell something long before we can see it. Think if you lived outside and there was a forest fire, for example, and you're smelling the smoke, you know to turn around. Maybe you can't see the fire, right? So what happens is the brain takes sense, and it actually bypasses the normal route in the brain and sends it straight in. If it's a scent, it doesn't have to go through this discernment process, this sorting process that most of the other sensory input has to go through. And so this is why things like essential oils and the smell of a flower can have such a profound shift on our wellness. Now, sound, of course, what has happened is that we are now living in an extremely noisy world. And so that what we don't really necessarily even have the awareness of how noisy it is. If you ever go someplace out in the wilderness and you realize how much background noise is around us all the time, we've talked about this a lot, but one of the important things about sound is it has to do with the words that we say and the things that we hear from others, and that includes the words that we say to ourselves. So we'll be talking, I'm going through these, and then I'm going to share some flower essences with you that can kind of help in each of these areas. So just bear that in mind, that it's not just, oh, I heard a car honking. It's also the words and the communications and the interactions, and what we say is all part of our sound, what we say, that's giving and receiving. Now, vision, we're used to vision. Everything is visual now. And so we are most aware of visual cues. We're looking around all the time. But again, this visual overstimulation is really, I've been staring at the computer all day preparing for this presentation tonight. My eyes, you got the blue light blockers, all of these things that we're trying to do to protect ourselves from the overstimulation. Not to mention just how fast moving everything is on our screens. So vision, although it's our dominant sense, it's not, the brain doesn't necessarily take it as the most important sense, and it does get overwhelmed pretty quickly. Now, taste, of course, is our other sense, and this eating experience includes all of the senses: the way something smells, the texture of something, the sound of it sizzling in the pan. And taste developed mostly to, I think it's so interesting, not to decide, does this taste good, but we have a certain sense, which is not as developed as it used to be, that was detect, is this food nourishing or not? If I'm a forager and I'm going along and I need to know, is this worth my time to harvest this particular plant, for example? And my taste tells me, no, that just is not going to be nutritious, then it's not worth my time. Because back in the day when we were living off the land completely, that took a lot of time. That was what we did, was basically getting food all the time. So we don't really use this anymore, which is really too bad, because it would probably prevent us from eating so much junk food that we all seem to consume. And what we consume matters. So what we're tasting can be metaphorical as well. What are we tasting from the world around it? What tastes are we bringing in? What we consume in many ways, this includes like our sight and our hearing as well. What we consume really does matter and really does affect us a lot. And then, of course, touch, is also feel. So how we feel in our own skin is so important. The skin is our largest organ. We have 100,000 nerve endings just in our hands alone. And those nerve endings each have a different job. Some detect hot, some detect cold. They don't detect both. They're very specialized. And as we know, our hands are very sensitive. And of course, our body is the source of both pain and pleasure. And so we are driven to move away from pain and towards pleasure, although there's another thought thing where sometimes we don't even let ourselves enjoy our life and enjoy just, I'm not even talking about sexual pleasure. I'm just talking about like the pleasure of the breeze on your skin, those sorts of things. We don't slow down enough, and oftentimes we don't think we deserve enough to be able to feel good in our own bodies. And then our sixth sense that I want to share with you today is our intuition. And this is the wisdom we receive when we allow ourselves to just be in all of our senses at one time. Just to sit outside and allow yourself to take in everything from your senses at the same time is I call it a spiritual connection, but just the feeling of awe and reverence just for the world around you is what you can get, and you can be able to understand more about, your purpose in life just by allowing yourself to tap into that intuition. I think it's very important. I spent many years as a scientist. I ignored this. And so I am very glad I'm not ignoring it anymore. So, a little whirlwind tour through our senses. And I just want to, next, we're going to go through some of the flower essences that can help us in some of the areas for each one of these senses. And so I hope you're enjoying this so far. Let me know in the comments if you're watching live or down below how this is ringing true for you. Are you starting to see how what we believe and what we take in and what we allow into our world is so much more important than we think it is. And we spend a lot of time just going on autopilot and not really paying attention to how we are in the world. So let's get on to the last half of the presentation tonight. And I want to go through the flower essences. And then I'm going to tell you about a couple opportunities that if you want to keep working on this sort of thing, I have a couple opportunities for you at the end of today's presentation. So I want to start now as we're doing, let's see here. Since we're getting into flower essences, the father of modern day flower essences was Edward Bach. Now, people have been using flowers and the essences and the energy of the flowers for millennia. But he's a person who kind of brought it into a more, for lack of a better term, commercialized type of acceptance. And he was from England, and he was a doctor, and he was working on these patients, and he was just like, these people are not getting better. Why? And so he decided to leave his practice in London and just go out into the country and spend time in nature. And he became very spiritually connected to the land of where he was living. And he was, I think he was there for maybe around 5 or 6 years. And this is in the early 1930s. And he passed away by the time he was 50 years old. So it could only imagine what he might have gone and discovered had he lived a longer life. But he wrote a lot about the sort of energetics of the plants, and specifically the flowers. And he just was looking at the kind of wild native plants that growed around in that area. And so he is the person who kind of started this idea of calling them flower essences. Now, what is an essence of anything? The definition of the word essence is really like the true, it comes from essential, right? The essential nature of that person, of that flower, plant, even a rock, a mountain, whatever it might be. And so, as I was saying earlier, because we have our own essence and our own energetic essence, we can connect with the essence of other living beings primarily, although people do make essences from gemstones, which have their own energetic imprint because of their structure, and animals and everything. So, but the important thing about this, right, my son keeps trying to call me in the middle of this session. It says here, disease will never be cured or eradicated by present materialistic methods for the simple reason that disease in its origin is not material. So what does he mean by that? Well, what he means is the things we have been talking about all 3 days here. These beliefs, perceptions, stresses, emotions, especially our beliefs about ourselves, our unworthiness, and so on. All of these things, he goes on to say in this quote that disease is only the result of the sort of accumulation of these patterns, these kind of negative patterns that finally, by the time it expresses itself in the body, a lot of things have built up. Now, I want to make sure that we can see how all these things affect us and affect how we feel and are creating stress. But I just want to make sure that I'm not, that quote, you're not thinking, oh my gosh, everything that's wrong with me, it's all my fault. And because as I said, that, most of the beliefs, as I said earlier tonight, most of the beliefs you did not get yourself. And is it the fault of your parents? No, they didn't. They just didn't know. And that's the purpose of this masterclass, is to grow your awareness that beliefs that you have, you don't have to continue to believe. And that we talked about in day 1 and 2, you can start to do some things. So by the time you're not feeling good in your physical body, a lot of stuff is built up. So we start with the physical body and we get that calmed back down first, and then we can work on some of these other more mental, emotional aspects as well. So Deb is saying, yes, I'm enjoying this. It's confirming the things that I thought. And Linda is saying that she is really enjoying being outside in nature. It's a lovely time of year. This is part of the reason why I'm doing this time of year, to really encourage you to tap into the essence of nature, whether you're taking drops of anything or not. Just being outside with plants is just so healing. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't think I was telling you, oh, it's all your fault that you're sick, but to be aware that we can start to work our way backwards. And so for those of you who did the exercise yesterday, looking at your timeline, you start to realize, oh my gosh, some of this stuff I've been holding on to for decades. And now it's time to release it. Time to release it. And that is where flower essences can help so much. So what is a flower essence anyway? And so Alina Hennessy is the author of a flower essence book, actually one of our prizes for tonight. And it says the flower essences, they're infusions, so that's water, infusions of the energetic qualities of flowers. They address the nature and wellness of one's soul and emotions, as well as the connection to one's whole being. And the reason why, so we're basically, it's like a water imprint of a flower's essence. And why does this work? It's like, I've got a bouquet sticking in water here. Is that a flower essence? Well, part of it has to do with the intention, but the reason why it works is because water itself can be imprinted. And if any of you have seen the work of Dr. Emoto, where he took water and used 2 different pitchers of water, I guess it was, and would write positive, loving words on one, and then negative hate, greed, whatever on the other one, and then froze the water and had beautiful crystals in the positive water and had ugly, horrid crystals in the negatively imprinted water. So we do know that water can be imprinted, and this is why the flower essences can be created. So what is it that's being imprinted by in the water? This just last night, as I said earlier, I am taking an advanced practitioner course now, and my teacher was talking about these sort of energetic fields of flowers, energetic fields of flowers, or energetic fields of flowers. And there is this technique called Kirlian photography, which measures the kind of like electromagnetic images coming off of anything. I believe it's only off of living things, although you can sort of like electrify things and get it to create this as well. So here is an example of sort of the life force of these flowers. And then this life force, with the help, it's usually they're imprinted by the sun into the crystalline structure of the water molecule. And again, we know water molecules can be imprinted, and that's why this works. So let's get into some of the actual, let's see here, some of the actual flower essences. And what I'm going to do is I have some plants here that I want to talk about, and then I'm going to just go through some slides because I want to show you, well, what are some of the essences that can be used for specific sort of sensory help. And that's kind of a framework we've been doing. So let's do that first, and then I'll share some of these other live plants that I have. So the first one I want to share with you is the morning glory plant. And this flower essence is used for creating more healthful habits. So it reduces your cravings for junk food and stimulants, and it just kind of revitalizes your life force overall so that you don't really have a need to have, you're not like craving other things. So that is a great one to use for just an overall helping you feel better in your body in general. The next one is scent. So I actually have my rosemary plant here. This is our plant, our mascot of the day. And what rosemary does is it helps you to connect and ground into your body so that you feel more safe. Remember, the sense of smell is the most primal sense, the one that is most important for alerting us to danger. And so the rosemary plant helps you to feel more safe in your body. And it also has a lovely thing where it helps you to remember the loved ones that have passed and keeping a sense of connection with them as well. So this beautiful rosemary, this is a plant that I had inside all winter. It's been out on the porch for a couple of weeks now, getting ready to be replanted in the garden. I can't keep these around all year. They do not overwinter well enough. But rosemary is a really important herb in most people's home herbal pantry. And so now you can see that the flower essence is also a great one to use as well. And our next one is, of course, one of my very favorite flowers and such a good flower essence. And so for our sense of hearing, of sound, our listening, calendula is all about communication, and it helps you to hear, like, what are people really saying, and appreciate what they really mean underneath the words that they're telling you. Because a lot of times we can react or feel hurt. We did this on day one. Remember, I was talking about how do you feel if the clerk at the store was rude to you? We have no idea what that person's day was like. And so in a situation like that, where you have someone that you're just really not communicating well with, and you're having a hard time really not getting either your feelings hurt or understanding what they're saying, calendula is a lovely flower essence for that. And I don't have any live calendula yet. It's still just barely sprouting, but I grow calendula every year, and I highly recommend that you grow it as well. It is such a lovely flower, and it's edible, and it makes a great skin skin lotion, and it's also can be used for your lymph system as well. So good old calendula, a great one to have around, and it's really hard to find in like a garden center, so you pretty much have to start it from seed. And it's also the quality that you get if you grow it yourself is way higher than you can see in commerce most of the time. Now, vision and beauty. One of the things we've been talking about this week is how our environment is so important. I'll admit it, I probably should take some sagebrush. I have a lot. Well, it's not too bad right now. There's only one pile of stuff over here to my left that you can't see. But for people who tend to like have a lot of clutter around and they just don't seem to be able to put it away, and works on both the clutter in your personal space, like things outside of you, and also like a clutter in your identity, a way to kind of clear out the as the saying goes, the things that no longer serve you, and help you to feel just more beautiful. Like how when we feel cluttered and there's stuff all around us, it's stressful. So what we see and experience is also kind of our sense of touch as well. When we have stuff piled up around us, it has a big effect on our quality of life. And I don't have a sagebrush that grows out in the western part of the United States, and but it does make a nice flower essence. Taste is all about nourishment, right? And so the walnut flower essence, and this is, you're thinking the walnut nut, this is actually what the walnut flowers look like. They're a long catkin. Most of the most trees are flowering right now. It's a really good opportunity to learn something more about the trees around you. They have these long catkins, birch, walnut, even oak has like a catkin, which seems weird because it makes a acorn. But anyway, the walnut flower, that's what that looks like. And so walnut helps you to break old habits, especially around food. And this has to do with, as I was saying earlier, sometimes our beliefs and the things that we're holding on to have to do with our family or our culture. And maybe we don't feel like they're the right thing for us, but we feel them because of the way that we grew up and so on. So this helps you to release these ties to these sort of social rituals and things like that. And then as far as our body health, our sense of touch, the olive helps you to revitalize through kind of reconnecting with my own inner source of energy. So if you're just exhausted all of the time, olive can be a great one for you. And I don't have a olive tree in my yard because that grows in, Mediterranean climates, but there is a type of olive. It's actually an invasive species called autumn olive that grows here. And I brought a little sprig of that, and you can see the little flowers. They're not quite open yet. They create a little teeny tiny, almost a berry-like, and it's edible, and it's a little on the sour side, but it's good and it's nutritious. And so if you have autumn olive growing around, be careful because it does have spines on it. That is a characteristic of olives. And you can actually eat those if you identify it properly, of course. So, Linda's saying rosemary is one of my favorite smells. Yes, the smell of it is just so delicious. And then the last picture I wanted to share with you is about your sixth sense, your intuition, and the ability. This is self-heal, and self-heal is a teeny tiny little weed that grows in your lawn mostly And it helps you to accept responsibility for your own healing journey, believing that you can get better, believing that you can heal. And a lot of times, what we do in a flower essence, when we're working with flower essence, we are creating a blend for people, and self-heal very often will go into that blend because it's just kind of like the extra um, support that someone needs. And let's see, did I have another? Yeah. So I want to share a couple more plants here that I have for you, but I wanted to oh, olive is for people who are really exhausted and need a little, Deb's saying I miss the benefits of olive. So it's for exhaustion if you need to like kind of rejuvenate your physical energy. But before we go into the last ones, I want to take the time real quick to tell you about two options that you have if you want to keep working on the flower essence. They're so amazing. I love them so much. And I'm starting a new program called the New Moon Flower Essence Program. And what it is that we meet once a month, and I have the date set up here. It's going to start next week, and we meet right before the new moon each month. And right now, these dates are set up on Thursdays. And what I do is I'm going to ship you, mail you some flower essences. And then we meet together on Zoom, and we'll do a sort of like a, not really an initiation, but we'll talk about the plant, its uses. We'll start taking the flower essence, and then you work with this particular essence for a month. Now, it's the new moon program because the new moon, I am not super into the astrology, but new moon is a time for starting something new. And so the reason I've got this set up to go in 3 months, because shipping out the essences to you, it's just way more efficient to send you 3 at a time rather than every single month to be shipping out the essences. So we'll meet on Zoom, and we'll have our group within the Cultivated Life community. If you're interested in that, you can go to herballyinspired.com/heal, which heal, of course, is kind of what we've been talking about this week, the holistic health. And you can check out all the details and sign up there. And then if you are interested in really working on your own health and you're interested in working with flower essences, I am a flower essence practitioner, and I do work with clients. And normally I charge, and this is for 3 sessions and the essence and a lot of research and work that I do behind the scenes. It's normally $400 for that. But what I'm doing is for the rest of May, I'm giving a discount for May, for the month of May, the flowers of May. So that is going to be $250 to do a consultation. So there's that special price just for the rest. You just have to sign up by the end of the month. And on both of these, well, on the other one, you can do like a 2-pay. On this one, if you want to do it and you need to do 2 payments, you're going to contact me anyway, or message me in the community, or just send me an email to the wellcultivatedlife@gmail.com. I don't have a sign up for that because it's really more of a one-on-one discussion that we will have. So those are 2 opportunities that I have for you. The this new moon, which I'm really excited about this. It's going to be awesome. Flower Essence program. It's $97. So it's basically like $25 a month plus 20, the extra money is for shipping out the essences and all that sort of thing. And that'll be nice. And then we'll have that as a group to share our experiences, because when you start working with flower essences, you can get some dramatic changes, and sometimes they can be subtle. And so it's really nice to have some people to go through it with. And what we'll be doing here is we'll be exploring all the same essence all together in the same months, and we can experience how it affected each of us. It's going to be really nice. So let's see here. This is the self-heal. I love this picture so much. I did not take it. It's one of those fancy ones from the thing, but self-heal, helping ourselves, believing that we can heal, is really, really important. So let's talk about a couple more plants. I want to talk about, I see Linda says, oh, we have lots of pine trees and oak trees where they live. And right now, a lot of these trees are blooming. And I, I went out to get some samples and I realized I cannot get up to the height of some of these trees. But there are a couple trees that, well, some of them, Edward Bach, that I was talking about earlier, his main point was to help people with kind of like trauma and distress. That's what he was relating to the plants about. And for people with that had emotional issues and even soul level issues. And so this is what he was focused on. And one of the plants that he worked with, and it's getting a little floppy now. I don't know if I can make it do its thing, but this is quaking aspen. It's not going to really, but when you, I'm trying to be the wind here. When aspen is blown in the wind, it shudders and quakes like this. And so the signature of the plant, we, this month in the Cultivated Life community, we did Doctrine of Signatures, which is like how the plant grows and how it looks and the color and the type of flowers and does it, the sort of elemental nature of the plant tells us a lot about its essence. And he believed that every plant is shown to us, and a lot of people, that these plants are put here to help us and that it's obvious what their purpose is. So the quaking aspen is for people who have a lot of fears of things they don't even know what they're afraid of. They're fear that something bad could happen in the future. They're afraid that, of things that are going on that they're not even certain what it is that's bothering them. They're just generally afraid of the future. And so that is, you can see how people can get into that kind of state. And what happens is that these things are very vague and a lot of times they're afraid to even express this to other people. So this isn't specifically one of the senses, but these are really like states. If you're always afraid of the future, do you think your nervous system is highly regulated? No. So that's a good one for people that just feel like afraid of everything. Another one, of course, crabapple that I brought in yesterday. I was like, oh, we're not talking about that. And I'm like, oh, well, we better talk about crabapple since it's here and it's so incredibly beautiful. And crabapple is really for people who are always worried about things not being clean enough. And my sister, if you're watching, I think you need some crabapple. But just, like people that are always, things are unclean. And especially it a lot of times will work on themselves and they don't feel that they're clean enough or they're not good enough as well. And so it can be for people that have a lot of like psychosomatic type of illnesses because they're always worried about things, germs and things like that. So crabapple can help with that. And then another one, really a lot of people can use pine. This is white pine. I believe Bach used, he might have used Scots pine because that was more the native species that grew there. And white pine is native to the United States. But pine is for people who always blame themselves for anything that goes wrong, even if it really wasn't their fault at all. And they are kind of have an insecurity and they're feeling like, oh, I'm so sorry, apologizing all the time and things like that. So pine can really help people to just kind of come back to realizing that, they don't have to always take on the burden of other people's mistakes. So that's one of the things that pine can be really super helpful with. And the other ones that, like I said, they were too tall. I couldn't really snip a branch off of it, but one of them is beech. Here we have American beech. And beech is for people who really just need to see more beauty in the world. They spend a lot of time and the beauty within themselves. So it can really help us if we constantly think the world is, ugly and we're surrounded by, negativity all the time. and we're just not really going to like ourselves very much either. So beach can really help with that. And that was one of the last one I wanted to share, which I haven't really used, but if it's still blooming this coming week, I may co-create an essence, which is oak, which is one of the big ones. And these are for people who that are expending a lot of effort and energy to either get well or to deal with things in life. And they just constantly always seems like a fight to try to just survive and deal with things. And so oak can help people become more contented with things as they are and realize that fighting against things isn't really always the best way to come to a resolution. And there are hundreds more essences that are available to for us to help us with our mental and emotional states. And they work, like I said, on such a beautiful level, helping us shift sometimes very subtly our energetics, our beliefs, all of those things, so that we can start to see the world differently. And that's what makes a big difference for us. So let's say hello to our beautiful self heal once again. And I wanted to just say thank you so very much, everyone, for joining me for this masterclass. And I also I want to just remind you, stay connected in the Cultivated Life community. And we have an herbal roundtable the first Wednesday of every month. You can come and I pick either a plant, a specific plant, if there's one that seems really appropriate or in season. And then I will also share, sometimes we'll have just a subject that we discuss. Like I said, we did the doctrines of signatures because I knew I was doing this event this week. And before I forget, I see that both Deb and Linda are on tonight. And so I was promising to give away prizes at the end today. And they are the two that really did the deep work and posted in the community. And so since I'm giving away two prizes, Linda and Deb, you are the winners. Congratulations. And I will be contacting you to see which you would like. We have either the flower essence kit, which is six essences, or the Flower Essence book by Alina Hennessy. So I will be contacting you to see. Congratulations and good for you to do that deep work. If you downloaded the deep work and you haven't done it, please still do it. Those two things that I gave you, there's one more that I give people. Those are basically what you need to do a personal consultation. So that's the information that you need to work on to start working with flower essences. So again, congratulations. Linda says, thank you so much. And Deb says, woohoo, thank you. I've really enjoyed this. And Linda's saying, I'm trying to help a friend that has very bad emotional problems. So this is great information. So I meant to bring it down here, but I didn't. The one thing that I'm going to recommend for any of you who want to get started with flower essences and really just for kind of like stressful situations is, and I usually try to bring my little bottle down here. There is I'm going to put it in the comments. So it's called Rescue Remedy, and I just stuck that into the comments. And Rescue Remedy is a combination of 5 of the Bach flower essences, and it's really a type of essence that you use. Like I use it sometimes when I really cannot get to sleep, and it just helps you go from here to like, oh, it just kind of takes the edge off is how I decide how I describe it. So if you want to get started with flower essences and you're not sure what to do, grab a bottle of Rescue Remedy. You can get it anywhere. Probably get it on Amazon. Although with things like that, I tend to try to want to buy from a more potentially legitimate source. Like I wouldn't buy vitamins on Amazon because there's so many fakes. But anyway, so no, there's no deep work for tonight because we're at the end. However, if you want to do some deep work, Deb, The next step is actually looking at your relationships with others, because our relationships with our spouse and our family and our kids and so on. And you kind of did some of that, Deb, when you put up your when you were talking about um, your answers from yesterday for your timeline, but really kind of like do you have a good relationship with, and who do you have a stressful relationship with, and really examining those. That's the third part of the sort of intake for that we do when we're working with flower essences, because your relationships affect so much. So, all right, we're at an hour now, and I try not to go that long. But again, thanks everyone, and I will see you in the Cultivated Life community. Let me put my fancy little banner in there. And also make sure that if you're interested in the New Moon Flower Essence program, it's you can go to herballyinspired.com/heal. I think it'll actually take you right to the heal if you just put in herballyinspired.com. So check that out and get more information on it. And it starts next week. So if it's something that you're considering, please either contact me, make sure and sign up right away, because I will have to send the essences to you, and that might take a little bit of time. So thanks again, everyone, and I will see you in the Cultivated Life community. Take care.